Welcome to Subramani. I'm going to tell you a story where we all participated and we all had fun, and we are not now wanting to pay the bill. Okay, go back to 2019 and go back to US. Don't go to India because India has done far more sensible stuff than what the US has done. 2019 was a end of a, I mean, in retrospect, was end to the tail end of a long and prosperous bull run, right? So the richest people were feeling very rich because the markets were up, their wealth looked good. So people feel rich when their wealth looks good. True for everybody, right? Whatever age, whatever country. So we all were feeling good, and the US was feeling great. The top 10% of Americans owned about 70% of the wealth, and that was going up, and there was nobody to stop the party, right? There was nobody to blow the whistle and say this party cannot go on. And to this, beautiful products were launched where you could get loans permanently on your assets. You didn't even have to sell and pay capital gains tax. So you just borrowed money, used that money, and you knew that there was no interest, right? Interest rates had come to zero. So if I have, let us say I have 10 crores, and if I sell 10 crores, let's say 8 crores of profit. So I will have to end up paying 80 lakhs or 1 crore, close to 1 crore as income tax. Here I know that I have to borrow money. I'll get money at 1% or less than that, 0.5%, and my appreciation will at least be 3-4%. So why would I even sell and pay capital gains tax? This was a much better way of doing so. You could borrow unburdened. You didn't even have to worry whether the government will come and ask for the money back, right? So that was the situation. Come March 2020, and one Chinese virus called corona hits you, and the world is wondering what to do, right? So the markets are likely to crash and things like that, when suddenly the Fed decides that people should not feel hurt, people should not feel bad, so we will pump money into you. I think they pumped in something like $4 trillion over a period of time. Everybody was getting some check or the other. Everybody was getting $600. Then there was child care. Then there was pay protection. I have a list. I'll talk about it a little later. So you take 3-4 factors of production. One of them is money. And when you take money, you have to pay interest. When you employ a person, you have to pay salary. When an entrepreneur takes risk, he expects a reward. But here you are getting money free, right? Absolutely free. All the old bad bonds were bought back. The government ensured, the government pumped in so much money into the US economy that it spread all over the world. All over the world, people had to do it, because if you didn't keep your interest rates low, money would just get flooded into your country. So every country had to keep low interest rates. India also kept low interest rates, except we were not as low as the US, or I have a list of countries which had gone into negative interest rate, right? So those were the bonds at that time available with negative interest rate. You have to pay money to keep your money. So given the situation, all economists, all fund managers, all investors knew something was wrong, but nobody was willing to say, oh, the clock is going to strike 12 and Cinderella's horses will turn into pumpkin, right? Nobody wanted to call that. So, but everybody was enjoying saying that, oh wow, interest rates are so low, it's a time to be investing. So you could, anybody with a mic or with a cell phone camera could launch a blog or a vlog, right? You could launch a website, you could create product, because there was no interest cost. So every venture capitalist was willing to fund everything that was that looked like good business, right? So whether it was the Paytm which got funded, Nykaa which got funded, or Zomato which got funded in India, or internationally, you have so many people who got funded, and companies were booming. Facebook and Microsoft and all those shares were the ones which were really booming, and now they're down. So let me just enumerate the amount of money that the US put in and how what the Fed did. So inflation remained under check. So look at the inflation numbers in US from 2015 to 2019. 0.12, yes, 0.12 in 2015, 1.26 in 2016, 2.13 in 2017, 2.44 in 2018, and 1.81 in 2019. So the economists believe that they have arrived, some magic they have done, and we have come into the disinflationary era. We very nicely and conveniently forgot the 1980s inflation. I mean, if you've been in the US, it was 70s were terrible times of inflation. It was bad in India. 70s, 80s, we would have two-digit inflation. So this is the situation which we were in 2019. At some point, in 2019, $15 trillion worth of sovereign bonds of 1/4 of the overall global bond market had negative interest rates. And many countries, right? It was Japan, Sweden, France. I'm not sure whether UK also went to that lower rate, but Sweden, Netherlands, all of them had negative interest rates, right? So therefore, this 15 trillion. People were, I mean, I'm sure I was mystified and I had no clue as to how this could sustain. But well, they said this could sustain, this is a new era. So we all knew that we shouldn't believe it. This time it is different, but we all love to believe that. So we believed that, and we thought we are on a perma bull run, right? So we were talking of 100,000 Sensex and maybe even 100,000 Nifty. I don't remember, but yeah, that's the kind of talk that was happening. We said, oh, we are exporting, and the US said, oh, we are going to export all our inflation, we don't need to. What the US did not realize was finding two countries, India and China, with 1 billion population each, all willing to work for less than $1. But the US government did not have the guts to tell that to its people. So it said, oh, don't worry, we will give you money. So they gave them money, and they thought by some magic this money will not come back as inflation. What are the theories? We said, oh, first we blamed China, said, oh, China is supplying goods, so therefore interest rates are low. Then of course we said, oh, just-in-time inventory, we have made it so great that we have crushed the working capital cycle. Thousands of things were told why inflation will never raise its head again. Which was like, well, we all wanted to believe it, so we believed it. It's not to say that we didn't know it was wrong, but somewhere we believed, and there were now few fund managers, and those fund managers were called the heads of your central bank in every country. So every country was pumping enough money to make sure that you did not need a great fund manager. Anything that anybody bought went up. Some went up faster. So you put money in pharma went up 30%. I put money in auto went up only by 22%. That was the problem. It was not a question of whether I was beating the rate at which I was borrowing, because I was borrowing at 1%. Banks were happy to lend at 1%, 1.5%, 2%. I'm talking about the US. So then we said, oh, the government must be hiding its figures. We were not sure. Nothing we were sure about. And anyway, after all this economic torture of pumping in so much of money, suddenly in 2000, I have some more data. I had data about what are the schemes which directly the government's pandemic oversight agency did this. Round 1 in March 2020, they paid $1,200 per IT filer. You filed IT, you got $1,200. $500 for a child care act. December 2020, they made it $600 per tax filer, $600 per child, right? Then in March 2021, it was $1,400 per tax filer and $1,400 per child. To prevent companies from mass layoffs, they had a Paycheck Protection Program, PPP it was called, where government of US was giving free money to pay your salaries, right? It was a loan. So beginning of March 2020 and continuing the course for over 2 rounds, they paid, hold your breath, 800 billion, which went on to 11.5 million, which went to 11.5 million small and mid-sized business. Over 10 million of those loans ended up being forgiven, not repaid, or which was worth 742 billion. Read my lips, 742 billion. People who borrowed under the Paycheck Protection Act were supposed to return it. Many people did not return it. Some people returned it, but I don't think that would have been about 10%. So 90% did not return it. Maybe genuinely they couldn't return it, but well, they didn't return it. The coronavirus fund was created to get money to states and cities. A total of 150 billion was sent to 1000 entities, from Texas to California, Commonwealth of Kentucky. Everybody got that money. There was state and local fiscal recovery fund, which distributed 350 billion US dollars to 1756 states. Throw in another 186 billion through the provider relief fund to support hospitals and healthcare organizations worth, so about another 134 billion was actually sent out here. Broadway, museums, etc. Restaurant revitalization fund was given 28.5 billion USD, and average grant was about almost 300,000 for 100,000 representatives. If this is not helicopter money, what is? So when you distribute money through the helicopter and then you're hit with inflation, why are we surprised, right? So this is what has caused inflation, right? We came up with very many theories. Why will there be no more inflation? So all this money has to get absorbed. The government heads, the parents and the company heads have to tell their employees that, look, this is what you will be paid for, this is the kind of work that you are doing, otherwise we can hire others. We don't want to say that also. So we want to pump in more and more money, and when people are saying, oh, we are losing jobs, what it means is they don't want to work at a lower wage, right? So whether it is US, UK or India, it is high time that we told people, get your butt off this chair, come to the office and work. There are people who have quit jobs because their office said you have to come to office, right? And we saw 300 people who are doing working with 2 employers, right? So these things can't continue. Somebody has to wake up and tell your kids, go get a lifestyle which you can earn and you can sustain. Don't treat your parents as an ATM. Same thing the companies have to tell their employees, countries have to tell the government. Luckily for us in India, we did not throw too much money and create inflation. Of course we have inflation, but if you compare it to the rest of the world, we've kept our inflation much under control. So this whole talk was more about why there is so much inflation in the US. What will it take for them to come out of it? I have no clue, but they will have to do something. Thanks, bye.